Put-call ratios. Volume figures for the options markets are used essentially the same way as in futures and stocks. That is, they tell us the degree of buying or selling pressure in a given market. Volume figures in options are broken down into call volume bullish and put volume bearish. Wait a minute, what was that saying? Let me read that again. Does this ever happen to you on the SAT reading passages? Do you find that you read something and it's like way over your head? Are you running out of time on English Module 2? All right, guys, Laura Whitmore here, owner Strategic Test Prep, and I can relate to you guys. One, I struggled on the English sections back in high school. I only had a 640 on English. I had a 780 on math. And when they redesigned this test last year and made it digital, the reading passages I felt like were even harder than they were before on the paper test. So I went to work this past summer and tried to figure out and crack the code for how to make these SAT reading passages easier for everyone, and I think I've figured it out. But before we get into this brand new strategy that I'm going to reveal and share with all of you, just a heads up, we are giving away our new digital SAT English workbook for free. You just need to subscribe to our newsletter. So I will link up here to our website right now. Go ahead, enter your info. We will email you this brand new workbook that also highlights the strategy in it. All right, guys, now for the big reveal. Here is what I've figured out about the SAT reading passages. On a lot of the passages, you don't even need to read the whole thing. The answer typically comes in the last sentence of the passages. Now, this doesn't work for all the passages. Rule of thumb, generally, it works for like the first half of the block of passages. So I'm talking like numbers 5 to number 10. Okay, when you get to like number 11 or number 12 to 15, it's less likely to work on those, and you're more likely to have to annotate because they're inference questions or more technical science questions, etc. However, if you get good at this strategy and you can fully implement it and utilize it, you are going to bank so much extra time on the English modules that you'll have extra time to go back to the really hard ones, and you might even have extra time at the very end after that. So I sat in on the November test back this past year, 2024, and I landed a 1590, and I actually took a bathroom break during English Module 2, like an untimed pause the test bathroom break. So I love this strategy. I really believe in it. I've been using it with my students. It worked for me. Now it's time to share it with the world. So here we go. All right, so what I did was I just chose a few random questions to do the strategy on. So just rule of thumb, the strategy works really well on main idea questions, main purpose questions, overall structure of text, text most strongly suggests based on the text. So a lot of the big picture type questions, this is great for. And the last thing I'll say before I get into the questions is, this is essentially a theme on the SAT I want you to be aware of. College Board loves to give extraneous information that is unnecessary to getting the question right. It's to divert your attention, to kill your time. So the goal and what we do at STP with our students is to help students differentiate between what is important information and what is the fluff. So let me show you what I mean. All right, this first question is a text most strongly suggests question. Great candidate for using this last sentence strategy. Honestly, as far as where this would be located in the modules, it would probably be in that number 6 to 10 range, which is another indicator that this strategy is going to be helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go to the last sentence. It says the play's refusal of narrative coherence thus hinges on the sense of spatial fragmentation that the venue's immense and intricate layout generates. Okay, first you have to be okay with not understanding everything that's going on. Okay, you're jumping into it. That's okay. You don't need to understand everything that's going on. What you need to look for are a few key things. Unique punctuation marks, transition words, or synonyms, or like important phrases in the text that will show up in the answer choice in a different way. So I do see a transition word here. So right after that is probably super important. It says it hinges on the sense of spatial fragmentation. And then they basically describe the venue as immense and intricate. Okay. So I'm going to go through my answer choices and I'm going to try to find a match to that. A says the choice of a New York City venue likely enabled the play's creators to experiment with the use of theatrical space in a way that venues from earlier productions could not. Well, first of all, they're not comparing it to venues from earlier productions in the last sentence, so that's a no. B says audience members likely find the experience of the play disappointing because they generally cannot make their way through the entire venue. They're not talking about the audience at all in the last sentence, nor are they talking about it being disappointing. That's out. C says the production's dependence on a particular performance environment would likely make it difficult to reproduce exactly in a different theatrical space. Well, C is perfect because when I look at C, I see a direct synonym for dependence. So if you go back up into the last sentence, can you figure out what the synonym is for dependence? It's hinges. Exactly. So that is a direct match. And let's hold that and just check D. Audience members who navigate the space according to a recommended itinerary. Okay, they're not talking about an itinerary, so we know that that's out. The answer is C. So I found a synonym. I found the important part of the text. I was able to solve that. If I wasn't explaining it to you guys, I could solve that thing in less than 30 seconds. That's going to bank me more time for Module 2. As you can see, the difficulty level on that is 3 bars. That means it was a hard question. All right, if you're finding this video helpful so far and you have yet to subscribe to my channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Do something really good for yourself today. Smash that subscribe button and notification bell below because I come out with free content every single week to help you master the SAT. All right, let's look at this next question. So this next question is a main idea of the text question. Another great candidate for this last sentence strategy. So I'm going to go to the last sentence. It says the researchers found that many users employed cognitive mechanisms to mitigate those feelings, ultimately reversing their initial sense of disappointment. Okay, one thing that's important is this word ultimately. That is essentially a transition. So I think that this part is going to be really important, reversing their initial sense of disappointment. I'm going to try to look for a synonym in the answer choices to that. So we have research suggests that most users of smart home technology will not achieve a feeling of satisfaction given the utilization challenges of such technology. Well, no, this doesn't feel right. That almost feels like an opposite because if it's reversing a sense of disappointment, then they are going to feel satisfaction. So I'm going to get rid of A. B says, although most smart home technology is aimed at meeting or exceeding users' high expectations, those expectations in general remain poorly understood. Well, that's not true because we know that they had an expectation. They were initially disappointed. So there's nothing in the last sentence that says that it's poorly understood or they don't know enough. We're going to get rid of B. C says, research suggests that users with high expectations for a new technology can feel content with that technology even after experiencing negative disconfirmation. I'm going to hold that one because the even after experiencing negative disconfirmation sounds like a synonym to me for ultimately reversing their initial sense of disappointment. Let's just check D though. D says, although negative disconfirmation has often been studied, little is known about the cognitive mechanisms shaping users' reactions to it in the context of new technology adoption. Again, there's no theme in here that talks about little being known, so I'm going to get rid of D. The answer is C. So I found a match. I found a synonym. after experiencing negative disconfirmation is literally the same thing as having an initial sense of disappointment. All right, guys, if you're finding this video helpful so far, show me some love, hit the like button below. All right, last example. This one's a science one. Don't get intimidated, okay? You can still stick to this strategy, and even if you don't understand everything, you can still work it out by finding a direct match in the answer choices. So let's take a look at this. It says, what would most directly support their conclusion? Great time to try the last sentence strategy. This probably would fall in that first block of reading questions in that range. So let's go ahead and we're going to read the last sentence. It says, rather, they concluded, okay, well, we want something to support this conclusion. So this is where we need to hone in. They concluded that sediment influx in those streams may have been sufficiently spatially diffuse to prevent the typical sorting effect from being observed. Okay, when I look at that, there's a key phrase that really stands out to me. One thing I notice is an adverb of degree, sufficiently. Adverbs of degree are very important. They are essentially words you want to look at and hone in on because they emphasize something in a specific way. And what I've noticed is sometimes an answer choice will also have an adverb of degree, and everything about the answer will be right, but that adverb of degree will make it wrong. So, for instance, in this passage, it says sufficiently. There might be an answer choice where the adverb of degree says insufficiently or something of that nature. So when you notice that, pay special attention to it because those words are super important and they hold a lot of weight on the passage and on the answer choices. Sufficiently spatially diffuse. Well, spatial is, you know, your environment or your surroundings. It's the space around you. Diffuse means spread out. So that's so interesting to me to hear that it's sufficiently spatially diffuse. And then it prevents the sorting effect. So I want to look for an answer choice that matches that and that says something similar to that. So let's go through and just weed them out and try to find the right one. A says, the streams regularly experience portions of their banks collapsing into the water at multiple points upstream of the sampling sites. Well, I am probably going to hold this because if it says at multiple points upstream, that sounds like it's spatially diffuse. Because it's spread out. It's happening at one point here, at one point here, at one point here. That could be a match. Let me hold that. B says the streams contain several types of sediment that are not typically found in streams where the sorting effect has been demonstrated. Okay, several types of sediment, that is not a match. That's irrelevant. We're looking for something that talks about spatially diffuse. So I'm going to get rid of B. C says the streams mostly originate from the same source, but their lengths vary considerably due to the different courses they take. Well, again, we're not talking about different courses. We want the space to be spread out. So that doesn't really sound right to me. D says the streams are fed by multiple tributaries that carry significant volumes of sediment and that enter the streams downstream of the sampling sites. I get nothing that means spatially diffuse in that one, so I'm confident that the answer is A, and that is the match. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. Full disclosure, I randomly selected those questions and did not prepare them in advance. And as you can see, it worked just fine for me to do this last sentence strategy. I will say though, it's going to take some time and practice to get this down. It's like riding a bike. So if you want to learn more about this strategy or get into it in more depth of when it works, when it doesn't work, some things that you might want to think about, like when you might need to read the sentence before the last sentence or the first sentence, I would recommend you get into our English self-paced course. I've just redesigned it for 2025. We have brand new video lessons in there that are exclusive. You can't get on YouTube. Our brand new workbook is in there, and you can get through all of these amazing reading strategies and become an English boss, quite frankly. So let me put the link up here. Go get that English course today. And just a heads up, since you're a YouTube viewer, I am giving $50 off the course. Just use the promo code 50 off at checkout. Until next time, guys, happy prepping.